Hello, and welcome to another battle report from Santa Barbara Wargaming. I'm Paul, and today I am playing Jim in a 35 point demolition scenario. He brought Legion, and he rolled to go first. In his list, he brought pVayl, two Scythians, Typhon, a Shredder, a full unit of Legionnaires, and a full unit of the Pot. I think it's the spawning vessel is the official name. So he got first to deploy. He deployed the Scythians over there with sort of on the right with pVayl, and then the Legionnaires in front of the spawning vessel. So pretty standard deployment, nothing too tactical. Here is my 35 point list. I brought P Madrek, a Mauler, an Earthborn, and an Axer, a full unit or a min unit of Krillstone with the Elder, a Rune Bearer, the full unit of Femblades, and the UA, the Officer and Drummer. And I deployed over more to the right. You cannot see it in this picture so much, but the terrain is set up in such a way that I was trying to minimize the effectiveness of the Legionnaires, sort of refuse flanking them. They would have to go a little farther and get kind of sandwiched between the rock you can see in the upper left-hand corner and the objective in the middle there. So going second puts me at a little disadvantage simply because he does have a lot of war beasts in this list, and I only have two of them, and pVayl can be very devastating with some heavy war beasts in her list. So that was my deployment. So he pretty much ran everything. He ran the Legionnaires up with the pot behind them. He then ran both of the Scythians up. He wanted to make sure that he was not too much in threat range. He left pVayl back there a little bit, and Typhon didn't get to run up as much. She put leash on the left Scythian to give it a little extra speed to get over more to the right on the field. For my first turn, I knew that I sort of needed to bait his beast out. I'm one beast down with regards to heavies, and he still has sort of the same sort of army composition. We have a full unit. He has the spawning vessel. I have the stone. He has two Scythians. I have a Mauler and an Earthborn. And then my Axer kind of doesn't really make up for it. So the point cost difference is a little bit. I think the Legionnaires are 8 and my Femblades are 10. So he was able to find some points in there to upgrade sort of my Axer into a Typhon. I moved up. I had the Rune Bearer give P Magic Harmonious Exaltation, which makes one of his spells cost less once. Basically, a free fury to cast a spell with. And he put Surefoot on himself, put 2 on the stone, and camped 1. And he moved over to the right. I didn't want to go head to head with his army. I wanted to leave the Legionnaires kind of out of the fight, and for the Scythians over to the right here, kind of across the objective. It's an interesting strategy. I didn't feel it was as effective as it could have been. He played it very well. My beast ended up actually being sort of out of the fight most of the time. I kind of positioned them far away. I knew I might have taken the alpha from him, but I maybe should have eaten it rather than just left my war beast completely out of position. You can see the Earthborn. He doesn't have any way to get the speed bonus. With Rush, and the speed bonus would have been very helpful, giving him an extra 4 inches of movement, potentially getting a very nice strike onto one of his beasts. In this matchup, I really needed to take out a beast early on, leaving, and still having both of mine to even out the battle. If I can take out one of the Scythians for free, I would then be able to sort of play evenly matched. The Femblades and the Legionnaires are very similar. I have tough, which didn't seem to be too much in this game, and the Legionnaires were really just there to fuel the spawning vessel, giving them extra 2 or 3 points almost every turn to get a few shredders or stingers out there. The Krillstone do okay. They definitely help a little bit more when I'm bricked up, and maybe I should have bricked up a little bit more than I had. The stone kind of helps, but when you don't have a lot of fury to put on it, it becomes very ineffective, as well as almost a nuisance on the field because you're trying to position it in such a way to get the 4 inches, but then it's really not in the greatest of positions. It really belongs behind the war beasts, and I tried to play it to cover a little bit of the Femblades, but armor 14 and 16 aren't very much different. Whereas 18 to 20 I feel has a lot more, actually has a fair amount of difference. So on the low scale of armor, it's not very much, it's not very good, but when you bring 18 up to 20, oftentimes it can be quite a lot better. pVayl has a lot of options with Chiller and Insight to counter my buffs, and so I almost feel like against pVayl, my buffs aren't really all that useful because trolls you're playing stat down, your stats are often lower because you want to buff them up to almost a reasonable level or even above that. And pVayl gives her war beasts the opportunity to bring me down to armor 18 and defense 10. And oftentimes Trollbloods don't really do well at that level. They really require the extra 2 armor to hopefully eat up a full charge from a war beast and hopefully survive. But that's often not the case. So with my turn, I moved up the Femblades. I wanted to screen a little bit. I knew try to get those if he committed a war beast, which I definitely, we talked about it. It wasn't really advisable to, but getting those Femblades up there early to countercharge. I felt like maybe I could have baited them a little bit more by offering a few more Femblades. I think it would have been a little bit better to get them farther up rather than baiting 2 or 3 of them. It just wasn't really worth it in this matchup. Maybe actually committing all of them to the front line. I might have drawn out a Scythian who might have done the whole bloodbath on them, which is just fine if I can lose 5 Femblades to get a Mauler engaged with a Scythian on the charge. So I definitely feel like I could have committed them more. I played them a little less aggressive, especially on the second turn. You're already kind of, especially how quick pVayl is to advance. The second player really needs to, if he can, take advantage of getting as much field as possible, because oftentimes the second player doesn't gain as much field space as the first player, who often can get the 2 turns of advancement over the oftentimes the 1 turn of advancement of the second player. So Femblades committed to make the kind of the reach screen in front. Moved over the Earthborn, although it was really not necessary. You can see they're over on the flank there. The armor buff for the Earthborn isn't even necessary. The Mauler's in a decent position. Maybe the Earthborn kind of in the middle of the Femblades actually would have been a better spot. I know it might have been, they might have gotten tangled up with the Femblades, but the Earthborn was so over to the right there that it just didn't come into play most of the game. As well as the Axer, I would have liked the Axer almost a little bit over to the left as well. For Thresher with the Legionnaires would have helped. And also the feat, giving the Axer the ability to buy an additional attack when he did feat, if he were to miss or not be able to kill a model. So Axer and the Earthborn really they belonged on the left, and keep the Mauler and P. Madrek and the Stone on the right there to help the Femblades with some anti-infantry, as well as if the Scythian committed over to the left, kind of splitting up his forces. If I can force pVayl to stretch out that 8-inch command bubble for Insight, I might be able to stretch her out a little bit, and that might have helped out. Okay, so I forgot to take a turn at the end of Jim's turn 2, so there's going to be a little bit of my turn 2 in there, but I can explain what happened. It's pretty simple. You can see he moved up the Legionnaires. Um, he ran them all, kind of get them all clumped up. He moved up the two Scythians and advanced those, as well as Typhon and pVayl. He put Tenacity on 3 of the beasts, and that was pretty much his turn. So again, it was pretty quick. He just wanted to advance up. He knew he was playing a little bit more of a cautious game, didn't get baited in. So that was good on his part. Legionnaires got a little bunched up, and I expected that. That was a little bit of my strategy that went right. I knew he could. He got all bunched up with that. I would have liked to seen a little bit them spread out a little bit more. But although they're good at spreading out the pot, that's good. But since the pot is so slow and the Legionnaires ran 2 turns in a row, the pot's a little left behind in that regards. So you can see for my turn 2, I committed the Femblades on the charge, and I ran them up to engage the Legionnaires. I decided it would be best to not trigger Vengeance on the Legionnaires and just jam them up. I knew that with some good placement of the Femblades, they wouldn't be as effective. They might get 2 of the Femblades, but they would still be jammed up and lose another turn. I charged in the Femblades to make contact with the 2 Scythians, and the Shredder that he charged up to stop the charge lane there for the Scythian. But since my Mauler and my Earthborn were so out of place, I couldn't really commit a Mauler this early in the game. This is my second turn, so the most I can be up is like 30 inches up the field. If I were to run twice. So theoretically, I could have gotten to that Scythian, but just poor placement as well as no real rough terrain to spam Elemental Communion onto the Mauler or rush to the Mauler to get that extra speed buff. pMagic doesn't really provide any of that, so I have to seek that elsewhere. I ran up the Krillstone to screen pMagic, and the Earthborn and the Mauler are kind of there for counterpunchers. So yeah, that was my turn 2. So with turn 3, Jim actually he did a really awesome thing on his part, and he was able to effectively use Rampager to advance my Mauler up and kill it, removing one of my heavies, and with pretty much no retaliation. This is before he popped his feet. I wanted to make sure I got a picture of what he did before he actually feated, since his feat allows for a lot more movement changes. It's oftentimes to get a good picture of it before you get to see how he uses his feat effectively. So on the left there, he had Chiller up on the Legionnaires, dropping my Femblade's defense and helping the Scythians out that were engaged by them. He was able to kill the Femblades engaging. The Scythians advanced. The right one, I think Typhon actually came up and sprayed the Mauler and the Krillstone. And then the Scythian over on the right killed the Mauler, and then the Scythian on the left killed some Femblades with the feet, or with the Animus. Him knowing he was playing Trollbloods, he brought 2 Scythians to get that Animus out there to negate my tough. He ran up the Shredder to engage. Actually, I think he rabbited the Shredder, and he missed the first attack with Rabbit because I was sure-footed, and then he bought another attack, and I think I self-sacked it. The Krillstone was standing up because of Surefoot. So that was the pretty much his first turn, or the first half of his turn before he feated. And you can see he was able to get one of my Maulers. I was really disappointed in that. With Rampager, the good tactic to prevent that. It's really quite hard, actually, You can screen your bees so that he can't really pull them out. I think it's a really difficult thing to do. Even with Surefoot on the Mauler, he was able to boost and hit, and he did drop all his fury, which may have come into play with maybe a different matchup and being able to strike her. But she does have her feet, which is pretty nasty. So yeah, so that was his turn 3, and here you can see what he chose to do with his feet. He was able to move 12 models, and so he moved, I think, 6 Legionnaires, and it might have been, yeah, 6 Legionnaires, 5 from his, and 5 from his battle group. Actually, I think it was 6 from his battle group, 1 from the pot. So it was pVayl plus 5 Warbeasts and then 6 Legionnaires. He advanced up. He got the Scythian, kind of moved them around a little bit and hid pVayl behind Typhon. He did a good job with the feet. I was pretty much demoralized after the Mauler got taken out from Rampager. I was just, it really hurts to have 3 heavy Warbeasts on the field, and I have 1 big one left, especially since he's out of, he's definitely out of the game for the most part. The Earthborn is way too far away from retaliating against the Warbeasts. So what I've got left is a little handful of Femblades, my caster, and some Krillstone. So, quite different tables since his end of his turn 3. I tried to go kind of all out. There wasn't really too much I could do in the game, and I didn't feel like I was going to scoop in the game or forfeit, but I knew I needed to get in there and do at least a little bit, get into the game, and see what happens with dice. I really underestimated Insight and Chiller. Um, P Madrick is often really tanky. He goes up to defense 16 and armor 18 with the stone, and it's oftentimes very hard for Warbeasts to hit unless they boost, and even when they boost, sometimes they miss, usually needing 8s or usually needing 10s oftentimes to hit on 3 dice. It doesn't happen a lot. So, um, and armor 18 can oftentimes tank a few Warbeast hits that do manage to get through. So I popped my feet with P Madrick. I believe I activated him first and popped his feet, cast Carnage after the Rune Bearer assisted with Harmonious Exaltation. Um, he then chomped through Shredders and the rest of the Legionnaires. He had to buy an additional attack against the Shredder to keep going because he didn't kill one of the Shredders with his initial blow, leaving him with 1 Fury left. He was able to get as far as the Scythian. The Femblades, they charged in. The far left one killed 3 Legionnaires and then was able to kill 2 of the pot before actually missing an attack against the spawning vessel warrior models. The Earthborn then ran up for no other reason to screen against the other 2 Scythians, although P Madrick is already engaged with 1 Fury left, and he still has the scroll. So I wasn't too hopeful, and again, I had simply overlooked the immense power stacking of Chiller and Insight. So I was able to do some damage, got P Madrick up in there. There wasn't really too much I could do left in the game. I feel like it was a poor matchup on my part, almost at the list building level. So I don't want to discourage, the battle report, the quality of the battle report by saying that I did a poor job of preparing for the match. I felt like the match was really good, even from the Legion perspective of how to play your list properly and taking advantage of Insight and playing the Scythians correctly. And Typhon did a great job, although he wasn't a key player in the game with the 2 Scythians out front, just being great at attacking. The Typhon played a good key support role with his sprays as well as being a good screen for pVayl. So if you're up, you don't want to really leave your caster option. There's nothing wrong with having Typhon available for Dark Sentinel. One thing that he did forget was actually using Dark Sentinel. Might have been decisive. use, but something pVayl's got a lot to remember, so playing her effectively can be difficult. So yeah, obviously pMadrick is close by a almost full bore Scythian. I think I left it with 2 life. I was kind of sad about that. There, I didn't have any options really to get those last 2 points out of the Scythian. I might have been able to tank things a little bit more if I was able to take out that one Scythian. So beasts are very difficult to completely remove from the game. You have to really take all of their boxes out. So yeah, as I was leading up to the Scythian, he got Chiller on the Scythian with pVayl, and then cast Insight. He had the Scythian. He was effectively mat 8, and I was 14. He needed 6s. So on the first 2 attacks, he boosted and hit, and then he boosted the Bloodbath. And the first hit I tanked. The second hit I had to transfer because I only had 9 left, and I think he did 9 life. And then he popped his Animus and then did Bloodbath. I think I scrolled that one. He also got a Stinger. I think he got a Stinger out of the pot that did 9 damage, and then he did the Scythian. And so with those, that Stinger did 9 points of damage and actually hit with the boosted attack roll with Insight. So pVayl with those little guys can do quite a lot of damage. It was POW 12 with 4 dice, and he was able to do 9 damage on the roll. Then the Scythian came over, did his 2 initial attacks. He hit both times, and then did his I think with his chain attack, he then popped his Animus and then hit pMadrick for the final blow. I think I scrolled one and I transferred another, but it ultimately came down to being engaged with the Scythian wasn't enough, and I didn't have enough transfers. And he had a lot of options with other pieces in his arsenal. So overall, I thought it was a good game. I feel like I would have been more successful using my Doom Shaper list, which is my alternative for my Steamroller practice, which has the 4 heavy war beasts. Actually, I think in 35 points it has 3 heavy war beasts, a Axer, it has Janissa in the other list, and I think the stone is also in there. So E Doom Shaper probably would have been a little bit better. I would have been able to have some refuge possibilities and maybe get the alpha off with having Mulg, and I wanted to get some experience with pMadrick, almost being the underdog in the battle, and Jim did a great job playing pVayl, getting those Scythians out there and actually committing them at the right time, at the right place, and negating pretty much my tough as well as my stacking of statistics or model stats, and he had the upper hand the whole time. But I do want to say that I hope you appreciated the battle report. If you haven't played pVayl, please remember that she has Insight, which makes her War Beast exponentially better, as well as Dark Sentinel, which didn't occur, but I always try to remember and keep it in on the table. If you have to write it down, please do. But do remember that she has Dark Sentinel and can ruin your day, be even worse than a countercharging model. But thank you for watching, and I hope to have some more battle reports up. We have a Steamroller coming up here in about a week, and so we've been trying to practice. And I'm probably going to take pMadrick as well as Doom Shaper to a 35-point list. The trolls have a difficult chance, oftentimes at 35 points, but there are some lists available. And I will remember not to take pMadrick against pVayl, and I think he may not even be very good against eVayl with a lot of those movement options. He's just going to get picked away with a low threat range and sort of a tanky, bricky style army. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a good night.